Well, last week we talked about people being between a rock and a hard place, and I used the illustration of a mother not wanting to have the whooping cough vaccine, and the mother of the child not wanting.
And there was tension there,
And
the husband was going, well, what do I do? Like I love my mum, I love my wife.
It's all about loyalty. So this time I thought we'd talk about it again, but this time the situation is with blended families, and this is also where people can be stuck between a rock and a hard place, because you've got loyalty to your own children, and then you've got loyalty to your new partner, and that loyalty can sometimes also be compromised. Because you have a tendency to really
towards the children,
you're connected to your own children, and if your own children are upset, hurt, then you're going to hear them, and you want to sort of support them because they're looking to you for support. And if they've had a fairly traumatic breakup, or they're not getting on with the child is in a situation where they're not in a good place, but they're not getting on so well with their new stepmom. But you, as the dad, of course, you really want to sort of support your child. But then the child doesn't get on with the stepmom, and the stepmom then has issues with the child's behaviour. And so the guy's in the middle. Mind you, it could also be that the women are in the middle.
I was going to say, it goes both ways.
Goes both ways here.
So they're in a rock and a hard place.
They are definitely between a rock and a hard place. And again, it's a question of loyalty. So you feel the loyalty. And you have this sense that you want to support both. But if you support one against the other, in other words, the other person feels like, well, actually, this person shouldn't get this support because you need to actually deal with their behaviour. And that can come from the child to the parent. They're saying, how can you support her? She's doing this to me and she's hurting me. And so really, doesn't matter what you do, you're
in between a rock and a hard place.
And you can't please both, you see. That's the problem.
And the thing is, it also comes down to things like parenting styles and stuff.
Yes.
So, like one of the parents who might be the stepdad or whatever it is, might be really strict and, I've got to do this and we've got to lay down the law, and the mum might be, has kind of grown up being quite permissive and nurturing, and all of a sudden you've got that clash as well.
That can actually happen in any family, not necessarily step families. So you can be between a rock and a hard place. What happens is that someone is appealing to you to support them against another person who's also asking you to support them in the situation against that other person. So again, rock. So
here's the thing, though.
Yes.
And I know it's more complicated with blended families because you've kind of got all those different relationships, and
yes,
and I don't want to go too deeply into what happened the other night, but our home, I had a rather robust discussion with one of our children, and we were in disagreement, and I was kind of saying, you're not treating me with respect, and he was like, wow, but Dad, and so we were kind of having this discussion, and my wife kind of sat beside but didn't say anything. And
didn't support you.
Didn't support me, and I can see why, because I was also being a bit silly,
Yeah.
So I can see why. So she was just hesitant to get involved.
Yes.
But I said, why don't you support me in this? Because if you and I together were in agreement,
yes,
then he would have had nowhere to go. But
yes, true.
But it's difficult because I was also I went later on and apologised and said, "Can you forgive me?"
Oh, good on you. Scottie.
I was really dumb then,
That's good.
So, but I was also, I could see the tension that my wife wasn't supporting me, even though I was being silly. You know what I mean?
Right. So we do look for support from our partners in those situations. In fact, when it comes to parenting, we need to use the we word so that children understand, mum and dad, it's a we. We're doing this together and we're aligned together. And so you can't separate the two of us, because we have decided this is the behaviour.
Because as soon as you got that split between them, the kids.
Yes, not only that, but sometimes parents feel a bit undermined in those situations if they're not getting support from their other partner, and if the other partner's against them in that situation. In other words, the other partner's siding with the child, against the parent, and the parent is siding with the child against the parent. The other parent feels undermined. If that happens too often, sometimes the parent who's undermined will then back off and will not get involved so much in the parenting of children.
It's so complicated, isn't it?
It is. But the key to it is We need to have a discussion about it and set a path. I think with parents, so not stepchildren, I always suggest parents, you need to use the we word. So we have decided, not I have decided, we have decided that this behaviour is not acceptable in our place, and we have decided this is what we want.
And that actually says something to stepchildren, even though they may be in grief even, from their marriage breakup or the loss of a mum or dad. And even though they may not even have warmed to the new mum or dad, the stepmum or dad, if they're both saying we and we and we, then at least sets that standard for relationship, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, and the thing is, if parents use the word that we have decided, then the child knows, okay, mum and dad are aligned here, so I can't actually separate them and undermine one or the other because we have decided. So that's a good way for parents to approach that situation with children, to use the we word.
So what about if both the parents are in disagreement? Can you still say we?
Well, they need to have a discussion outside of the presence of children, of course, because you don't have the argument in front of children. That also doesn't work. Parents argue in front of children, that the children will know and hear what parent wants what or the other. So I suggest that parents, if you're having discussions about instructing, correcting or disciplining children, that you have that outside of the presence of children. You need to do that in a private space.
And then be in agreement.
But the person who's between a rock and a hard place, again, what you've got to do is you've got to empathise with both sides, and you appeal to both sides. You appeal to the reason side of things, and you explain the situation that you're in. So you explain to them, look, this is difficult for me because you've got to understand that I have loyalty towards both of you. So normally you can sort of reason that out. But at some point you've got to hope that it goes away, because you can't solve it really. Because if you do, it'll put one person off. And when you do that, don't get angry with the other person. Like, don't express anger, certainly not rage. Don't use labels, don't swear. Keep it calm and reasonable, and use appealing language and describe to the person's situation that you're in.
Easier said than done, but I like the wisdom there, Has.
Well, I hope people can take that up, and that we can have more harmonious families.